Hi, my name is Mattia Murray, and welcome to The Longer Road. You are on the longer road if you have multiple intersectional identities that are often marginalized. You've had to work harder to get to the starting line, and you might feel behind. I'm here to provide hope, support, and practical tips, and to let you know that you're not alone. Welcome to this bonus episode. This is kind of an unusual one. I'm coming up on the 10-year anniversary of a piece that I wrote, a song cycle that I wrote at the beginning of graduate school in 2012. And I recently went back and listened to the recordings that I had made. It was just me sitting at my keyboard in my apartment in August 2012. And I'd had the poetry for this song cycle, which is a connected set of songs telling a story in a classical idiom typically, which I was writing for a particular tenor. And I had the poetry for a little while. I had sat with it. I did not write the poetry. And I went into the little room with the keyboard, closed the door, and I just recorded the 6 tracks in a row with me both playing keyboard and singing. And I came out after, I think, 18 minutes, if I'm remembering correctly, and my partner at the time, who was also the poet, was like, "Oh, did you stop? You didn't want to finish?" And I was like, "No, I think I just wrote the whole piece." So it turns out that this improvisation that I did, which was my first pass of the piece, ended up being very, very close to the final product. Some of the vocal lines ended up changing because I was a soprano pre-testosterone and I was writing for a tenor. So I had to bring it down a little bit into his range, and then my overall range, my tessitura, sat higher than his, so there were a few things I had to pull down, and then I filled out the piano part because I'm not a good enough pianist to have improvised what I ended up writing, but some of the basic piano stuff is there. And one of the things that's really funny to me about this is that I used a couple movements of this piece in a masterclass in grad school with a famous composer, and he was like, "Oh, it's pretty repetitive, isn't it?" And I just laugh at that because every other comment I've gotten from basically every other teacher ever has been that my music is too complicated and has too many ideas. And basically they're telling me my music sounds too ADHD, which I'm not mad about. And I just think it's really funny that I had this one piece that was very repetitive and cyclical, and it's about Orpheus. So that was really what I was going for, was this cyclical, repetitive, there's this life and death cycle, there's the myth itself, there's the story itself, there's going into the underworld in the story, and there's the wedding near the beginning. And then the poetry also had these lovely elements about the cycles of the stars and some animal elements. So I really was going for a simple cyclical sound on purpose. And when I went back and listened to these recordings the other day, I was like, I should just put these out there in some form. And it's partly because I also just did some recording with my new voice, my much lower voice. I can now sing the song cycle in the tenor range, and I can also sing it a full octave below the original improvisation that I did, which I'm very happy about. And now that I love my singing voice so much, and it just feels like me, I feel so much more comfortable with the way that my voice sits and resonates. When I listen to recordings of myself from before transitioning, I actually have this really lovely nostalgia now, which I appreciate. And then also, I think there was a quality of the way I was approaching the piece that comes out in the sort of light soprano sound that the more bright tenor timbre doesn't quite capture, even though ultimately that is what the piece was. So very happy with that. And I will also include a link in the show notes to the full version of the piece with the full piano part if you are interested in listening to that as well. That was from a live recording. And then last thing I'll say about this is these were recordings taken on an iPhone in 2012. So they are not great quality, and I did not do any audio editing really, other than splicing them together to make sure I cut out the parts where I was rustling pages and stopping and stuff. And the reason I'm including this in the podcast is twofold. One, I'm a multifaceted person that does a lot of things, and I wanted to share this side of me with you because my life as a composer is a huge part of who I am. And two, even though this is from 10 years ago, I feel like I'm actually kind of entering a phase of composition where I'm getting these larger, not necessarily improvisatory, and I would say my improvisation would sound different now if I were to sit down and do the exact same thing. But this sort of download or this real creative flow where I feel like I'm receiving larger chunks of music at once. This is happening more to me again after a long period of technical focus and technical knowledge and really trying to craft things. And so I'm sharing this with you because I'm both acknowledging and calling in more of this side of myself that lives in creative flow and really just opens up and receives large chunks of art at once, which is a wonderful experience. And I know a lot of people say they feel like they couldn't compose or couldn't make art if that's not a part of your life, but I really do think everyone's creative, and if you can find those things that give you that kind of flow and make you happy, flow is very associated with happiness, and you can also get it through physical activities or play or a variety of things. So if that appeals to you, you can look up flow, and yes, I will talk about flow again sometime. Thanks for listening, and the next 15-ish minutes or so will be an iPhone recording of me singing in August 2012. This is the song cycle Orpheus, and I will try to include all the text in the show notes, and if I can't, I will link to the SoundCloud of the tenor, which has all of the text in the songs.
After the air, a weed or two remained, a gutted shell, a crab's rent lake, a man come to mourn at the shore. The mudflat stank of things that almost were. He lay upon that waste with nothing more or less to fear than anhedonia of galaxies. In the north winds disinterest. Almost a hero, almost a god, nearly a lover, he nearly known bliss. And the song the world had written just for him hummed in his ears half sung. He rose, but the way was gone. He wandered like an unstrung lyre's song, hunting for a string to run on, pulse without a body but the world. In sympathetic motion, cold along the cliff stumble back with a heart of lifeless song and dust on his tongue, singing one lone road, and even shadows could not follow. A sun like a dying torch spluttered above the field where they gave themselves in the grass and said that they were one. The guests looked on the trees, the crescent moon, a smattering of old faces, and maybe a hymn or two was sung, maybe even the sunlight wept, but no one heard. He forced his chords of joy into the air, and the air obeyed, hushed its sighing. No one heard the serpent grip the bride. Her heartbeat rushed like water through the lawn, down into the dark. Those glinting fangs, that hungry mouth knew nothing of the grave, and wondered as the stones began to fall what god of the grass was raging, and took the tears for rain, and never saw the emptied body supine white. So she is gone, and my heart screams in the night. But when I wake, I sing it back to sleep. These strings have moved mountains, stilled the wind, enchanted animals, and won me smiles. Why should they not sound in the mouth of hell? The world fell at my feet like pliant leaves that my plaintive notes pulled from autumn trees. There is no hall so dark I could not light it, no god so cold I could not melt his will, no season's icy queen I could not stir to whisper in her ear, to let her go, let her go, let my love rise with my music. And fall rivers the dead forget. Who is she, grey among so many? And what is the tune that echoes through the limestone? Meaningless and so familiar. One was the way through the dark, one was my gift to sing the dark away. Two were we bound in the world above, three were the earth and the sky and the sea, five are the rivers that course below, eight are the strings that softened a god. Our footsteps merged, increasing toward the light. Her breath was cold as night upon my neck, and as we rose I knew that the nothing I had won was her no longer. I'd rather sip her beauty one last time than hold her bloodless in my arms forever. Against the gods I turned to draw her in. I killed my love to keep her. At night, the monsters circled in the sky. The empty sands upheld the man who beat the earth with fists to let him in. Hearing they came, the ones he touched, the ones he changed, filling that waste with green and the hum of voices. The willow spoke, my boughs bent low in grief. You sang it into leaves till I learned to gather light. But you wore the darkness like a coat. Up sprung a gentle wind, I raged in the north alone. It said, until your music lured me toward the sun. But the note he heard was his song and warmed the shadows for a while. Her voice was low, unheard. He cocked his head, let the night come in. Above, the monsters thrash their claws. Undid the music of the spheres. The tune concealed.
Thank you so much for listening. I always appreciate it when people interact with my art in any way. And I will see you on Friday. Thanks for listening. If you know someone who would be helped by this podcast, please share it with them. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions at mattia@mattiamurray.com. That's MATTIA at MATTIAMAUREE.com. Thank you.